Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to First Issue Tech. My name is Kyle T. We're joined by Mr. Courtney. How's it going today, man?
It's going good. How's everybody doing?
Yiddy, welcome. So I gotta ask again, what's up with the Blue Apron update?
Man, Blue Apron is killing it. I love it. I'm gonna keep going. The food is great. It's fresh, right to the door. Gives big box. It's like every time you unpack it, it's like unpacking Christmas.
But for food.
That's right, and you know a brother love to eat.
Hey man, white boys love to eat too, dog. That's a fact. All gotta eat. Cool.
That's
so we got a couple things going today. We might be a little short, who knows? But after 10 years, it was a little over 10 years, in November 2006, PlayStation 3 was introduced to the world. And finally, we say goodbye today as it stops production at the Sony plant in Japan.
R.I.P. PS3.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Next, you may have, or may not have heard Apple's little event. They had a couple things come out of that, although you probably will only know because they released a new red iPhone, which people will want. But they actually dropped a few other things. They revamped their whole iPad line for the year, making way for what's coming up next. And we'll go over that in a little bit in detail.
Now, this whole iPhone red, how much money is really going to the cause? And all these charities saying they're fighting this disease and this disease and this hunger here and hunger there and open feed and clothe. How much money and how much are they actually doing? Because for them to say all these charities, especially the ones that are, oh, we're helping Africa, let's save Africa and do this for Africa. Meanwhile, all these decades they've been doing this. None of those people have electricity. But in the last 5 years, their entertainer Akon, he's been over there and he's provided over 1 million plus homes with electricity. So what are these charities really doing? So when people say, oh, I'm doing this for charity, that for charity, these companies, I don't even care. Apple with this red iPhone 7, I know I sound really pessimistic, but no, I'm realistic. Apple with this red iPhone 7, how much money is really going to the cause? Because there's no money in the cause. In the cure. There's no money in the cure. The money is in the care. So, do you really think Big Pharma and governments will let people publicly provide the cure for something? And if they do cure HIV and AIDS 100%, all that means is they're about to release something else that's even more devastating for us to die from.
Such is the way of the destructive world. You got a good point. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of that, in case you didn't know, one of the things that came out from the iPhone event is this brand new product Red. It's from a series that Apple's had going on for a while. They've released a couple of different products, or basically a percentage of the sales from this product will go to funding HIV and AIDS research. And of course, like the namesake, they're all a unique red colorization. The new iPhone is totally decked out in matte red. It looks great on the back anyway. It's got a white front. People aren't really polarized by that.
You look at the back of it and you're like, wow, that's actually a really nice looking phone. And I'm not a person that does red. I don't do red. I just don't. And every once in a while I might have a really nice red shirt or some red underwear, but that's about it. But this phone is really nice. It's real sharp until you turn it around and look at the face, and then you got this bright white classic Apple face. And I really think that the entire device should have just been red.
And it's unapologetically literally just the silver face taken on there, because the ring around the Touch ID sensor is silver too. They couldn't even dye that red. Yeah. That's kind of how lazy they were in the production. Now the box is cool as hell because you got the red font on the box. I like that. If they just could have added some more red accents to the front, that would have been great. I could even rock the white, but have something else that ties it together. Have that red ring around it. Have a racing stripe on the front. Anything. It's not unique. There are shops out there that do custom shells for iPhones all day, and you can get that exact same thing.
Gotcha. Well, and you're right, especially with D brands, because D brands, they do just about everything.
Yeah, that you don't even have to take. That's $10. And actually, D brand is savage as always on the social media, because right after the Apple announcement, they went on there and they had a picture of a red-skinned iPhone, and it was something along the lines of, get the elusive red iPhone now for only $10. Why spend $1,000 when you can spend $10?
That's
and
right.
They're not wrong.
They're not at all, and their skins are legit. If you take your time and you put it on right, you've got a solid fit.
Super tight fit, man. Everyone that's ever had them loves them, and apparently they're the only. Just follow them on social media. They're a trip to watch. Their social media team's killing it. But getting on beyond that, since we're on the topic of Apple, let's jump right into it. The main thing that caught my attention, which no one else really paid attention to, and I don't really blame them, it's not the main thing anymore, but they totally revamped the iPad line. It's been too long. All we've had is more refreshes and then the iPad Pro. So the TLDR is, in the new iPad, they're ditching the Air moniker. They're not giving it any other names. It's just iPad, 9.7 inch. It's got the new A9. It's got the A9 chip from the 6S. It's basically that kind of spec all around. I think it's got 2 gigs of RAM. But they've even dropped the price. Instead of $430, it's now $330. So they've dropped the price. They've gotten rid of the weird naming scheme, and they did refresh the iPad Pro as well. So now it's just going to be the iPad Pro 9.7 and 12.9. So you've got the iPad and the Pro, and you just realize you want the largest Pro or the small Pro. Easy. I think that's what really kind of triggered me, like the price drop and then just simple name.
Since we're talking about Apple and their iPods and iPad. Oh, I'm sorry, iPads. Did I say iPods? I did say iPods. iPads.
Showing our age, man.
Not even age, just the fact that I'm sounding like a regular everyday user. Like, yeah, I want to get an iPod. No, not that one. That one's too small. I want that iPod. That's not an iPod, sir. It's an iPad. Well, whatever.
True.
Anyway, did you hear that? Did you see the article about the hackers claiming to have breached hundreds of millions of Apple accounts, and they're holding them hostage, and they want Apple to pay a ransom to get them back, or else they're going to wipe all of the accounts clean, so all those hundreds of millions of users will lose all their data?
No, when did this come out? Why haven't we heard about it?
Yeah, it came out this morning. I saw it, and I wanted to mention that to you, and I totally forgot. Yeah, it's an article that I saw by Chris Smith on boyjeansreport.com or bgr.com. Yeah, I was reading that. I couldn't believe it. And the funny thing is, they only want Apple to pay $100,000, and they said if they don't do it, they'll wipe all the accounts clean. And I'm like, wow. So if Apple doesn't, what if Apple doesn't pay because they're so arrogant? You're like, whatever, you're not going to do it. There's no possible way you have that. Next thing you know, they say, okay. And then boom, they got an influx of hundreds of millions of customers calling them saying, where's my data?
Call me devil's advocate, but I really want to see the outcome of the latter other than the former.
Yeah.
I just want to know if it's true and if it can be done that easily. Did the article mention any specific group? I mean, I think only like Anonymous would probably be that powerful.
No, actually, Anonymous, they're not malicious. This is says
true.
I'll read a little transcript really quick from it. Let me pull it up. But yeah, Anonymous is just, they're an open group where anyone can join as long as they're about revolution and free information. They're not out to cause anything malicious. I don't believe anyway. The hackers apparently engaged in conversation with the media and forced Apple's hand. The Turkish crime family hacker group, which spoke to Motherboard, want either 75,000 in Bitcoin or 100,000 worth of it in iTunes gift cards.
That's weird.
Why would you want $100,000 in iTunes gift cards? Because Apple can say, okay, you know what? Let's just create a bunch of iTunes gift card numbers that we can trace to these people using them.
Yeah, I mean, I get the Bitcoin. Bitcoins is just data you can't
Bitcoin I get 100%. But to ask for $100,000 worth of iTunes gift cards, they can generate a bunch of iTunes gift cards with new numbers specifically geared to target to try to catch the hackers. So I don't think those hackers are too bright.
It just sounds fishy altogether. So I really don't think Apple's going to go through with it, and I really think they're just puffing a whole lot of hot air.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this story goes to the major media, but for right now, that the attack in London is taking up a lot, and they're calling it a terrorist attack, and ISIS is taking credit for it. But I don't really think it was a terrorist attack. I could be wrong, but it was one man. He stabbed a cop, and he tried to get away, stole the car, and ran over anybody that was in his way, and then the cops shot him. So I don't really see why they would call that a terrorist attack. There were no bombs or anything. He just stabbed a cop.
Yeah, it's not a widespread attack, no. I mean, a terror attack is just a larger form of a hate crime. You're trying to inflict malicious intent into a group.
Yeah, but they're calling it a terrorist attack, so now the media is just talking about the terrorist attack in London. That's all they're saying. It's just a terror attack in London. All right, anyway, that's way off topic. Let's get back on track.
Yeah, you're kind of getting onto that with the media exploitation and stuff. I wonder if, getting back to the hacker thing with Apple, do you think maybe maybe they just happen to find a security exploit that they're willing to go through, like something that's very easily found. But
it is. That's exactly what they found. But I don't want to spend all our time on that article. I just, our viewers should take a look at it. If they haven't heard about it by now, they should definitely go to bgr.com or just look online and say hackers won ransom from Apple or something. But that's pretty much what it is. They found an exploit. They were able to hack in and they stole all these accounts, and they want Apple to pay in order to protect their customers.
Well, we'll see what happens. If you wake up and your phone's iCloud locked, you'll know what happened.
Yeah, right. Now you mentioned the iPad and the iPad Pro. They also didn't they do something with changes to the iPad Mini 4?
No. As far as I'm aware, the Mini 4 is still just the Mini 4. It's a I could be wrong. Damn, you gotta fact check me, dude.
Actually, they did. I wanted you to tell me because I know you know your Apple stuff, but because see it caught me off guard when I saw that because I was a little concerned on why would they even keep the Mini or to make changes to it instead of just making a Mini 5. But they did what they did with the Mini 4. They upped the storage options available for it.
Oh, so they made it to the 32.
Yeah, so for $399 you can get a Mini 4 with 120 gig of storage.
Gotcha. They also did the similar thing with the SE. They updated the SE to only be, instead of 16 and 64, it's now 32 and 128.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Which a 128 gig SE would be pretty dope. I actually really like that phone.
And they're available right now. The Mini 4 and the new iPad. The new iPad will be available on the 24th, but they're all available basically now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm looking for a laptop replacement. I might look into it.
Yeah, and the Apple Watch, I was a little reluctant in getting one, but I grabbed the new Apple Watch and I actually like it. It's a solid device. I don't charge it every day. I charge it every other day because I don't use the GPS in it, but and I don't have all the notifications going to it now. I'm very, very picky on what notifications actually go to the watch. And what they did today, which was kind of lame, but they just released some new bands for it. But that's not a big deal because third-party manufacturers are releasing the same identical bands or different bands all the time. So unless you're a brand loyalist or a brand snob, when no one will ever know that you're wearing an actual Apple branded watch band by a third party. Looks exactly the same, feels almost exactly the same, and it's $10, $8, $5.
Yeah.
So why pay $100 for something that you can? And I don't really do knockoff. Like I don't buy knockoff clothes. I don't buy knockoff sneakers or shoes. Everything I buy is legit. But when it comes to a band strap for a smartwatch, yeah, I'm gonna get as many as I can and as many colors and flavors as I can that they don't have to be directly from Apple's overpriced behind.
Nice. Yeah, I wasn't even going to go over that, but I like that you did bring that up to just let people know that the third part, it's a band. Anyone can make a band for it. So yeah, you don't have to throw them all your money. Just like very few people buy Apple's cases.
Yeah.
Like you can, but why?
Yeah, like Diddy made a band and he made him cross a bridge to get him some cheesecake. So.
Indeed. Bam. So we covered all that. The Pro. Now, that's one I forgot to look into. I forgot to see what changes were to the iPad Pros. I don't believe there's anything major with the iPad Pro now. I just want to double check, see did they upgrade the processor at least. That's all I want to know.
Same iPad Pro.
Yep. Camera hump and everything.
Yep. That's one thing I really don't get, why Apple can't get rid of that camera hump. I don't get it. Get rid of the damn hump.
Hey, LG did it with the G6.
Yeah.
It's gone. That's flush.
And that's the way it should be, because you should be able to put your phone down and it just lays flat.
Maybe they're saving it for the iPhone 7S. Maybe.
Or speaking of iPhone 7S, I can't believe they're doing the 7S, but it's Apple. People are going to buy it. People are going to go crazy. They're like, oh, I want the iPhone 7S.
We're not sure yet.
I will tell you that because of my Note 7 experience and me now being vested in iOS for what's been 5 months since the Note 7 released, or the recall, 4 months. It's probably, I think,
A
4
little
months.
more than that.
Okay, so it's probably 5 months now. And picking up this Apple Watch, I don't know if I'm gonna switch back to the Note 8. It's gonna have to be an extremely compelling device for me to go back because I'm right now I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the iPhone 8 is about and sticking with the ecosystem a little bit longer. I mean, as long as they continue to adopt Windows Phone features and Android features and BlackBerry features into the OS, I might actually be content to stay. One thing that does bother me is the fact that it doesn't have the smart dialer. When you're on the dial pad to make a phone call and you start dialing numbers or you try to dial someone's name, it doesn't automatically pull their name up. You usually have to go to the contact and dial them, or go to favorites and dial them, or actually know the number and dial the number. Come on, Apple.
You're one of only 2 people I've ever heard of make that complaint. It's valid, but
It's like
I
being a
think
virgin. You don't know what you're missing until you have it.
True.
You know, BlackBerry does it, Windows Phone does it, Android does it, Apple does not. So, I mean, come on, Apple. Get with the program. It's 2017 and a half.
Not quite a half yet. We're not even 4 months in.
I
but
said it's a half.
soon
I said it's a half. It's a half.
All right. I guess technically, like half of a business year, we're fiscal quarter, something like that.
There we go. Something like that. This is the fiscal quarter. We can call it a half. I don't care. Whatever. We can call it whatever we want.
All right. So with all that Apple bashing, let's get to a little retrospective. So PlayStation 3 is set to end production in Japan, we believe, within the month. Now, honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they were still hanging on this long. They've stopped being relevant, or really, I think, making big sales numbers about 2 years ago. They were still hanging on after the PlayStation 4 came out because it was still a great bargain. Yeah, it's definitely its time, and man, it was a nice console.
The PlayStation, I only owned it for about 2 months, and then I got rid of it.
Oh,
I've never really
man.
been. I mean, I was a PlayStation fan with the PS1 and the PS2 because there was nothing else. I mean, the Dreamcast was there for PS1 days, and then Sega screwed the developers and they stopped developing, and the console just died and went away.
No, actually, the PS2 killed the Dreamcast.
No, it wasn't. I'm not going to see what happened was.
Ooh, okay.
Because what Sega did was they had the Sega Saturn, and the Sega Saturn was doing really well, and it hadn't even been a year yet, and then Sega turns around and says, "Oh, we're going to release the Dreamcast, and this is what it's going to do, and it's not backwards compatible." So all the devs that vested in building Sega Saturn games lost money or became frustrated with Sega for not even letting them know, because it was the very next year they were releasing a new console that ran on Windows CE. It was a little different. So everything they was working on didn't work. So then some of them got on board and they tried to develop for it. And then the majority of the big names at the time, they didn't. And that's what killed off the Dreamcast. And I have mine. I still have my Sega Dreamcast.
How much you want for it?
Nothing, because it still works.
I really love my Dreamcast.
I have a Sega Genesis. I have a Sega Dreamcast. Got the Nintendo. I got Xbox 360 and Xbox One. And somewhere I know I have an Atari, but I don't know where it is.
Well, hey, as long as you hang on to it. So I'm sorry you didn't really get to witness what the PlayStation 3 was all about, because it was definitely unique. It got off to a real rocky start, but it was incredibly expensive. One of the first Blu-ray players for most people, because especially once the Slim hit, is when the console really hit its stride. They were competitive pricing, the same price as an Xbox 360, and you had a Blu-ray drive, when Blu-ray drives were still $200 or so, at least $170, and it was just killing it. They had all the exclusives. That's what I really liked about the PlayStations. They had a lot of experiences you couldn't get anywhere else. You had Uncharted and
Last of Us was one of my favorites. I'll give him that.
But yeah, so that console generation comes to an end, and we're about to welcome in a new half console generation with the PS4 Pro and Xbox Scorpio.
Well, before we even move forward, let's just take a moment of silence for PS3.
I don't know how the tune goes.
It is supposed to be a complete moment of silence. But the PS4 Pro seems to be a bit of a disappointment for a lot of people, because even when you compare it to the Xbox One S, which does 4K natively and it does the HDR,
Not native.
but the Xbox One S does. It's
No.
not 4K.
It's not native. It's an upscale.
Mm.
Yeah, dude. Do you really think a console that struggles to hit 900p 30 FPS can push 4K?
For still images and for HD 4K Blu-ray, yeah.
Yes.
Not video games.
Okay.
That's different. Yeah, the still images can be 4K.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's just nothing in motion is 4K unless it's on the Blu-ray.
right, and that's the one thing that's kind of holding back the PS4 Pro. But honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really think anyone's buying 4K Blu-rays like that. The people that want the 4K Blu-rays have probably bought it already. Not saying it's an excuse, but most people that watch 4K content are most likely consuming it through Netflix or Hulu.
As long as they don't have data streaming caps in their area, yep, absolutely, because Comcast is knocking you over the head if you go over your limit.
That's one thing I'll never get over is ISP data caps, man.
Yeah, and I mean the PS4 is a solid console. It's just unfortunately now it's being outpaced by the Xbox One. Microsoft has beaten them the last 4 or 5 months in a row in sales.
Yeah.
And then with this Xbox 1.5, this Xbox 1.5 coming out this holiday season, Scorpio. Actually, I can't even call it a 1.5. I really want to know what they're going to call it, because it's a leap, but it's not a major jump. But it's gonna be the most powerful console out here. PS4 will have nothing on it. So, and as far as anyone knows, Sony has no plans of releasing a new console right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really don't. That's the really iffy question, is because, in my humble opinion, I wouldn't have released an update. I would have waited until E3 of this year to announce a full console reboot, ones that can produce games that we have right now in native 4K, 30 FPS, just completely without.
It doesn't even have to be 30 FPS. It can be 24, because cinematically, movies are 24, and 30 is great. Don't get it wrong. 60 would be even better, but then 60 is so realistic. A lot of people would probably freak out if they watch the entire thing in 60 frames per second.
Depends on the games. Some games do 30 FPS a lot better. I can't play a game. I'm PC Master Race, so I can't play a game that goes below 30 FPS. It infuriates me.
Yeah, no, 30 FPS is a sweet spot, but the entire thing would have to run consistently at 30 FPS, or unless there's cutscenes where there's cinematic scenes and you want to up those to 60 frames, but then they're going to look so real, like the movements and the clarity, they're going to look like bootleg movies.
Yeah, no, don't, you never make your cutscenes higher. You always bring them down to cinematic level.
Yeah,
I'm just saying as a whole, I would have liked to see an actual total refresh, because actually it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of does, but both of these consoles right now, the Xbox One S and the PS4 Pro, and I'm just including them because they're both updates, but they're CPU bottlenecked like hell. Their CPU is incredibly underpowered compared to what the graphics unit can push, particularly on the PS4 Pro, because that's why if they had done either an architectural change or just an insanely overclocked version of the central processor, you would be able to play back catalog PS4 games at much higher frame rates than you can.
Well, and that's one of the things that bothers me, just like you. It's like, why push these minor upgrades without changing some of the key features that will really benefit gamers and developers? But again, Xbox One Scorpio or Xbox Scorpio, it's going to be a monster, and the specs are incredible on it, and I'm just really hoping that it's not a flop, like it's not just all fluff, like how every E3 the game developers show us demos of the next greatest game with all these high details and all this cool environmental stuff.
Watch Dogs.
The Division, and then the game comes out and you're like, wait, It didn't look like that. Why does it look like this? I mean, come on, they totally remastered it into like this analog version of this 4K thing they showed us.
You're right. So hopefully they can start doing that soon. Once they start closing the gap between PC hardware and console hardware, which the gap got way too wide during the last generation. PCs were doubling the performance of consoles, but now we're a little closer. So if they can just kind of ease the gap, we'd see things doing a little better.
Before we close out this mission, I would love to see Microsoft push out their next Xbox with upgradable graphics cards.
Oh no. Oh, that's a big one.
Imagine having you just flip down the slot of your Xbox, pull out your old graphics card, and you plug in your new one. Bam.
Yeah, you know why we have new cell phones released every year, right?
No, why don't you fill me in? Because all I see is dollar signs.
That too. But basically, the reason we don't have that in the cell phone market, modularity and upgradability in that, which can be done and can be done quite well, is because people want a singular unit, a singular device that they can look and say, this is the best right now.
You know what?
Do you have that iPhone with the new are you running the A11 or are you running the A9? Because you're not on my level.
Steve Jobs said it best. People don't know what they want. You tell them what they want. And that's not a direct quote, but that's what he said.
That's a very good quote, because that is very true, especially with those customers and really any consumer level product, particularly these game consoles too. Yes, that will please a great amount of people, but people are already losing their minds over the PS4 Pro. It's like, well, does this make my console? I mean, it makes my console outdated. It's no longer the best, so I got to invest in this new machine. No, yes, no. They're already confused.
Well,
so if you say that you can get this machine and then swap the parts out, who knows? I mean, probably less money is the reason why it's not going to happen.
All right, made a lot of great points today. I like the topics you brought to the table. I want to close out this mission, ladies and gentlemen. This is it, First Issue Tech. We want to thank you again for joining us for Mission 4.
Giggity. Thank you guys as always. Have a good night.